few years back, my friends and I usually got together once or twice a week, and we'd always watch a TV show or something. Most of the time, I'd pick what we'd watch because this was back when Netflix was DVD by mail service and there weren't any streaming sites that had reasonable quality. Remember those days? Anyway, I had the content, so it was usually my decision on what to watch. After a couple of years of this, someone told me everything I watched was depressing. I tried to counter that, but he was right. Pretty much all my favorite shows ended with everybody dying or betraying everyone, and they didn't even see the worst of it. So why am I such a fan of something that should make me feel bad? And I'm not alone, because most of the things we watched were at least well known, if not popular. Well, the answer might surprise you, with the power of science! Before I go into research data and scientific studies, though, I have a few thoughts of my own that are probably worth talking about at least. First, for many people, it's simply a cathartic experience. I think that's why a lot of people who aren't into that kind of fiction start their confused argument with something like, I have enough trouble in my life as it is, why would I want to add more? Which is perfectly valid. Humans tend to create trouble when we don't have it in our lives. We don't need to hunt for food for the most part, so we start wars. And when we don't go to war, we pretend to as children, and as adults we either watch violent movies or play video games. That's one reason why violent video games always get found on school shooters' computers and become a scapegoat. It's not because violent games cause violence. In fact, multiple studies have shown that that's not true at least, and in some cases leads to decreased violence. Rather, the shooters are often bullied, and since they can't fight back, they seek out alternative outlets for their aggression. But it's not real, effectively only shaking up a bottle of Coke until it explodes everywhere. Another common idea is that it's a form of escapism. For those people who have enough problems in their life already, watching a depressing movie can, first of all, give them the cathartic effect that they need if they have a retentive personality, but also understand their own life through the fiction. To quote Carl Jung, filling the conscious mind with ideal conceptions is a characteristic of Western theosophy, but not the confrontation with the shadow and the world of darkness. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The later procedure, however, is disagreeable and therefore not popular. Jung believed in the concept of the shadow, an unconscious version of yourself that you reject, hide, and stay away from. To be a fully developed individual, you need to integrate that part of yourself that you deny. Using his Western theosophy analogy, you would need to realize that in the Garden of Eden, the snake is right, and without eating the apple, you might not know about evil, but you also don't know about good. In other words, by watching a movie about people's lives going wrong, you can work to fix your own problems and better yourself. Or realize that maybe your problems aren't so bad after all. Fun fact, 82% of humanities academic research papers are never cited, making them a huge waste of money. But here's one I'll use. Oh wait, it's $36 for 24-hour access. Screw that. I've got the TLDR on this study from 2012 about how people felt after watching tragedy movies. Links to the abstracts where you can buy them for an unreasonable price and get more detail will be in the description. Hypotheses were derived from downward comparison and attachment theory to address the tragedy paradox. More sadness produces greater tragedy enjoyment. Participants, n equals 31, watched a tragedy and reported affect, enjoyment, life happiness, and spontaneous thoughts categorized into self versus socio-focused. Greater sadness led to greater enjoyment, mediated by life reflection. Specifically, both self and socio-focused thoughts mediated the sadness impact tragedy enjoyment. Furthermore, more sadness led to greater life happiness increase during exposure, mediated by socio-focused thoughts only. No parallel effects emerged for positive affect. The present findings suggest that tragedy-induced sadness instigates A. life reflection that increases tragedy enjoyment, as well as B. specifically thoughts about close relationships that in turn raise life happiness, which C. subsequently increases tragedy enjoyment further. In other words, a tragic story ironically increases happiness in various ways, most notably life reflection, both self and socially focused. It can therefore theoretically make you a better person. The sadder a movie was, the stronger the effects. Oddly, there's no effect with feel-good movies. They don't make you feel better, they don't make you feel worse. But the most interesting thing is that the more you watch, the more you enjoy it. People say you become desensitized to things, but in reality it's the opposite. You become more and more sensitive to it. You just like it. That's not to say you like bad things. In fact, the opposite is true there as well. You have a higher amount of social empathy with greater sadness. As the sadness crank is turned up, your life satisfaction and your socially focused thoughts increase, but your self-centered thoughts do not. From an evolutionary neurological perspective, this may be a way of dealing with something like a natural disaster. You all need to come together as a society and help each other out, or you're not going to be able to survive as a whole. That's just my personal speculation, though.
便宜上私が仕切るがそもそも出世に無縁な霞が関のはぐれ者一匹狼変わり者オタク問題児鼻つまみ者厄介者学会の異端児そういった人間の集まりだ気にせず好きにやってくれ So that study focused more on self-reporting and feelings, subjective measurements. Another study from 2009 took a different approach. Participants were shown an unemotional scene and played a $40 ultimatum game. You can look up what that is if you want, but in the interest of time, it's a sort of test that gauges two people's generosity and fairness regarding distribution of resources. They then watched an emotional video and played the game again. The second time around, there was a 47% increase in oxytocin, a neurotransmitter responsible for empathy, generosity, trust, and, believe it or not, racism. The last one is actually an increase in favorability between in-groups and prejudice against out-groups. If that's not controversial enough for you, the response is higher in women than in men. Yes, there are biological differences between men and women, and without racism we wouldn't have love. Trigger warning. So, as odd as it may seem, we watch depressing movies because we actually feel happier afterwards. We feel a sense of togetherness. So, the next time you think your lonely friend is gonna do something drastic on that Christmas that he spends all by himself, don't recommend the Hallmark Channel.
Well, why would your mother's stuff be mixed in with our boxes? No. No way. Your mother's not moving in with us.
Aaron is only gonna be for a few months. Maybe your tops.
Recommend Requiem for a Dream.
No, she won't. She'll come.
Actually, don't. Nobody's gonna feel good after that. Maybe Titanic or something. Just not the Hallmark Channel. That's a death sentence for sure. Let me know what you think about my science facts video. Boring? Interesting? Not enough clips of depressing scenes from movies? Want more? Want science facts to never happen again? Leave a like or dislike, or even way better, leave a comment and we can have a little conversation. Subscribe if you want to see more things vaguely resembling this about my opinions on stuff, and hopefully, I'll see you around.